Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Concordia University's Fourth Space. Thank you for joining us for today's event, Protecting Our Shorelines, Innovation in Oil Spill Cleanup. And to help situate you, we are streaming to YouTube, live from Fourth Space, and we are located here on unceded Indigenous lands in Chunjiang, Montreal. In the Fourth Space, we work with our university community to help mobilize knowledge by co-creating daily activities, examining research questions, things happening across the university. We're also running today's event as a live stream Zoom meeting. So those of you joining us there, we welcome your comments and your questions via the chat. And those of you here in the space, during the Q&A, just raise your hand and we'll bring a microphone over to you so that everyone can hear. And with that, it's much my pleasure to hand the microphone over to Associate Vice President of Research in the Office of the Vice President, Research, Innovation, and Impact, Monica Mulrennan. Monica, over to you.
Thanks, Doug. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Today's event is tied to the inaugural Concordia University Research Impact Awards program. This award was created by the Office of the Vice President, Research, Innovation, and Impact to celebrate the diverse ways in which research and research creation contributes to both scientific progress and broader societal benefits. We are thrilled to highlight the work of Chunjiang An, one of 5 recipients of this prestigious award, recognized for the exceptional impact of his work on oil spill response and remediation. The Research Impact Awards reflect a growing national and global shift towards recognizing the diverse ways research contributes to society. In a panel we had earlier today in this space entitled Signing DORA, Rethinking Research Assessment, we saw that this transformation is not just about measuring research differently, it's about ensuring that research assessment reflects the full breadth of scholarly contributions from knowledge mobilization to community engagement and policy influence. This shift is gaining momentum, with major funding agencies like the Tri-Agency and the FRQ committing to narrative-based CVs, an approach that moves beyond traditional metrics to showcase the depth and the impact of a researcher's work. By valuing these diverse contributions, skills, experiences, and so forth, this new assessment framework aligns with DORA principles, the Declaration on Research Assessment, and fosters a more equitable, inclusive, and meaningful evaluation of research excellence. To support our researchers in making this shift, we've recently launched a new initiative, a very exciting initiative called Pathways to Impact, which leverages both existing and enhanced resources, tools, and expertise to provide our researchers and research teams with an integrated support service centered around established impact pathways. And if you're interested in getting more information, I suggest you Google Concordia Impact Pathways, and that will take you to the webpage. But I'm delighted to introduce Chunjiang An. He is an associate professor in building, civil, and environmental engineering at Concordia. He's also a Concordia University Research Chair in Spill Response and Remediation. His research includes a broad range of topics related to pollution control, risk assessment, and systems analysis. Chunjiang is a licensed professional engineer, the associate editor of the Journal of Environmental Informatics, Water, Air, and Soil Pollution, and Cleaner Waste Systems, managing editor of Environmental Systems Research, and editorial board members of 12 international journals. More importantly, for this award, he does amazing work with significant scientific and major benefits to society. For more information, you should check out his faculty webpage. Just finally, I would like to extend our gratitude to Advancement for their support of this Research Impact Award series. Thanks to Prem Suryakumar, to Brett Cox from the Office of Research for the amazing work they've done to organize this series and the Research Impact Awards. Thanks to Doug and the Fourth Space team for their usual welcoming and hosting of us. And congrats again to Chunjiang An, and thank you for organizing today's event. And I'll hand over to you to introduce panelists, and thank you for joining us today.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. And then here, so that's my pleasure to be here. And then so I will be here to share some information regarding my research. As you can see here, so I will talk something regarding my research, so with a focus regarding the protection of our shoreline from the oil spills. And then here, so for the oil spill response, so that is one of my major areas in my research. And in addition, I'm also dealing with the other part for the pollution control and also for the environmental risk assessment. The reason so I want to focus on the shoreline because many of us, so we all like to stay on the beautiful beaches, right? And here, for example, so that's the photo here for the Orca Park Beach in Montreal. So that is the favorite beach for my kids. So they like in summer. So they went there for every summer to enjoy the water, enjoy the nice beach there. And in addition, we know in Quebec, we also have many other nice locations, even in Gaspé, right? So that's the part for Quebec. If we go to for the whole country, in Canada right now has the longest coastline in the world. So that's very long from the west to the north and to the east. And due to we have such a long coastline, so we also need to pay attention and then to see how we can better protect the environment along such a coastline. So there could be many challenges and for the environmental protection for the coastline. And here for the oil spill, so that can be one major concern. And here, so once there is any oil spill, for the spilled oil, so that can reach the shoreline and through the wind and through the wave. Once the oil is on the shoreline, so that it can damage the local system, quite a lot. So that's why here, so we want to pay attention to this pollution issue, and we also want to find the solution to resolve this issue. In the past several decades, so there have been already many spills. And for many of the spills, so they also occurred around the coastline, so in the world. And here, for myself, my background is for environmental engineering. And here, myself is also one environmental scientist and engineer. And from the point of view from the engineer, and so my approach to resolve this issue can be divided into the 3 steps. So the first step here, so I can find a way to do the better assess the risk coming from the oil spill. And the second step here, so I will try my best to analyze. So what happened? So what is the process and during the oil spill? And for the last step, so I will propose and develop some solutions to deal with the pollution. And for the next step, and so I will go to the details regarding so these 3 major steps. Here, for example, so our team has done lots of work regarding the oil spill response. And here for the first one, is something so we can do is to identify the sensitive areas to the oil spills. Here, so we can use some different methods and based on the ArcGIS and based on some different index. And then so we can find a way to better identify so which area can be more sensitive to the oil spill. As shown in this diagram, so this is one result so we have done for the BC. And so for the BC part, we can see for the color with to the red, so that is for some regions with the higher sensitivity to the oil spill. Once we know the location here, and then so we can find a way to better focus on these areas, and then to put more resources to protect those sensitive areas. And in addition, so our team has done some work to collect all the data regarding for the shoreline, for the coastal oil spill, and put them into one online database. So the reason we want to do this one is we want to put all the information into the online platform and make it to be available to anyone. And through the online database here, so the people can find some information regarding for the previous oil spills. So they can also find a way to know what methods have already been done to deal with the previous oil spills. So that information will be very helpful to deal with the future potential oil spills. And for our second part of the work here, so once we have already known which area can be more sensitive, and then we can try to better understand what happened, and after oil spill. And here, we can better understand for the oil fit and transport and for the spill oil on the shoreline. So the reason we want to do this work is because once we do this work, and then we can know how far, how fast, and how deep the oil can go on the shoreline. And then we can find the corresponding ways to do the cleanup and to do the other kinds of response. And here, one work we have done to analyze to identify the transport fit here. And so we have already been working with some partners, such as for the NRC, for ECCC, and for the Coast Guard. And so we collected many samples along the shoreline of for the whole country. And here, after we collected these samples, we further analyzed the samples regarding their features and regarding their types. And after that, we built one relation between the mineral finds in the samples and with the potential oil fit. And then once we know the relation between these two parts, and then we can know in the future oil spill, if there could be some similar shoreline, and what will be the potential oil transport and fit in that shoreline. And besides the mineral finds, we also identify some major roles, such as for the microalgae and the nanoclay, which can also exist in the environment. And here, we also did the study and to know what will be their impacts on the oil transport and the fit. And here in our lab, we also have the unique shoreline tank for the shoreline tank system. So the idea for this simulator here is, as you can see from the video, so we can use a tank and then to simulate what will happen during the tidal cycle. So within the tidal cycle, we can see the water can rise and then can go down. And through this tidal cycle, we will study how the oil will transport within this small beach here. So that's something we can do in our lab. So this part is also very unique. Besides some lab work, we also did some work to do the simulation. And here, we have done some work to simulate what will be the transport for the oil on the shoreline, and also regarding for the transport for the oil in the near-shore water surface here. And through such work, we can also have the better idea to see what will be the fit and the transport for the oil for both of the shoreline and the near-shore water. And here for the third part, we have already know what will be the transport fit and what will be the risk. And for the third one here, we want to provide some new solutions to deal with the oil pollution on the shoreline. And here, we have done some works and to develop some different methods to do the cleanup and for the shoreline. And so one of the methods here we are working is regarding for the use of the washing agents, which can help to remove the oil from the oil shoreline. The major idea for the part for the use of the washing agent here, we want to use some green washing agents, and some of them they are coming from the natural environment here, or even coming from the natural biomass, coming from the nanoclay, or we can also even use something coming from the foods. With the use of this green, safe, and kind of the chemicals and compounds, so they can help us to remove the oil safely and quickly. So there's another approach we have done here is regarding to how to better prevent the oiling on the shoreline. So the real reason we want to do this study, so that's because once the oil is on the shoreline, it's very hard to remove. Therefore, so we want to find a way to prevent the oil and then from reaching the shoreline. And then here, so we can do something like the green coating. And then based on the green coating, so we can let the oil to stay on the water, so which will be easier for the collection. And for the last step, and then here, so we have know everything regarding the oil spill on the shoreline. And so we also developed some methods to do the cleanup. And then for the last one, and then here, so we are also working to develop some guideline, some technical guideline, so which can be used to support for the future, response. And here, so we have already made something like the decision tree to support. So how to select the best method, such as for the washing agent, to be used on the shoreline. And in addition, so we also have one tool here. It's for the online decision support tool. It's for the SWADT. So this tool can also be used online. So when the people input their condition for their oil spill on the shoreline, so this online tool, so they can determine whether so they can use the method for the washing agent, or they should use the other kind of method for the oil spill cleanup on their own site. So that is the major consideration for our approach here. And in the future, and so our team is also working on the other kind of work. And here, so the major topic for here is regarding how we can deal with the oil spill pollution, right? But in the future, and right now, so there is also the increasing concern from the other areas. For example, right now it's due to the global warming, and then so there will be more frequent and shipping line so in the Arctic region. And then for the risk and for the oil spill, for the other pollution, and so we also increase so in the Arctic region. And here, so we're also trying to deal with the pollution and finding the ways to deal with the pollution in the Arctic region. And another one, so besides the oil spill, so there could be also some other pollution coming, such as coming from the container ships. And here, so we're also working on something to deal with such pollution, to find a way to and then to do the cleanup and for the pollution coming from the container ship. In the past several years, so since 2018, our team has already published over 180 journal papers. And so here we also have one website and to show the details for our work. And so if you want, you can also visit this webpage. And our team, so we also publish our results and through the public media. For example, so this is one public for the policy briefing, and so we published in the Hill Times. It's regarding how to use the new technology to deal with the oil spill in the future. And in addition, so our team also we were also in the collaboration so with the team coming from the MPRI and to host the International Oil Spill Science Conference at Halifax. And Dr. Kenneth Lee, and he was the conference chair and for the conference. And in 2023, so we also organized another conference for the People Conference. For this People International Conference, so we also have a very special session so that focuses on the oil spill. And in the end, so I would like to give my biggest thanks and to my team members. So they are the people who have done the wonderful job. And in addition, so I will show my operation to my research partners coming from the different parts. And also, thanks for the support coming from NSERC, DFO, Canada, EGBOC, and FRQNT. And in addition, so I also got lots of support from Concordia. And thank you so much for all your support. Okay, so that's all my presentation. Thank you so much. And according to our schedule, so next, we will invite our two special speakers here. It's for Dr. Kenneth Lee and also for Sonia Laforest. For both of them, so they are the experts so in the area for the oil spill response. So we will invite them to have a panel discussion and then to talk some interesting words and about their work. Okay. Welcome to Concordia, Dr. Kenneth Lee and Sonia. And here, so how about in the beginning? So to let you to briefly introduce yourself and about your work. Okay. So maybe how about to start from Sonia? Sonia, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the invitation, Chunjiang. It's very nice. I'm very happy to be here. So my name is Sonia Laforest. I'm working for ECCC since 2001. So I'm working for environmental emergency science since 2001. So it's a long time ago. I know Ken since 2001, I think so. So it's a very long time that we work together. And I work also with Chunjiang since some years now, I would say. So it's very nice to be here today at Concordia. So thank you very much for the invitation. So I'm a coastal geomorphologist by training. I did my study in Sherbrooke University. And right after, not long time after my master, I work in some company. And after that, I started to work for Environment Canada at the environmental emergencies. They were looking for a shoreline scientist, in fact. So it was very aligned with what I studied with. And I started in 2001 to work on Shoreline and the St. Lawrence River. They were looking for mapping the Shoreline River at the moment. When I'm talking about mapping, it's like going in helicopter with a camera video, oblique view, and georeference all the shoreline and segment. Like at the moment, the technology was so bad and all the GIS and everything, it was crazy. We had to reinvent everything. But it was, so now the St. Lawrence River, like since 2010, I think so, all the St. Lawrence River is a georeference, all the shoreline is all cut in the segments. So it was one of my first projects, and I continue all over Canada after coast to coast to coast. And I was a duty officer too. I work at this moment between 2001 and 2013, I would say. After Lac Mégantic, I was a duty officer for the National Environmental Emergency Center here in Montreal. And I was duty officer, so I went on a lot of spill, even though my research was more on shoreline and decontamination of shoreline. I was going on all the spills all the time, and I had the chance to go over the world on spills. So I saw major spill that we never had in Canada. We are lucky, and I crossed my finger that we will not have one with a boat that is stranded in Newfoundland at the moment. So I can talk about that later, but and after that, I started in 2013 after the big spill in Lac Mégantic with the derailment. I was a bit tired to do operation. I wanted to do a bit more research, so I switched with the team our emergency science and technology section, which is based in Ottawa. So it's a laboratory. We are scientific teams that helping the operation in emergency. So we are also on duty, the national, the operation, but more for science. So we are the scientific advisor, in fact. And in 2013, I could be more in my research in shoreline. So what Chunjiang showed you in his presentation is about what I'm doing too, but for the government. So all the penetration, retention of different type of oil and different type of sediment. We are doing a lot of research in that in the laboratory. I'm doing field camping. So I'm going on shoreline and ground survey, work with First Nation to take some samples and to analyze the shoreline at the moment, to have a baseline or reference data for them if they have a spill, to have some data. So we are analyzed TPH, petroleum, hydrocarbon, pesticide, metals, and many other analytes, in fact. And I'm doing that coast to coast to coast. So I'm working a lot with First Nations and to give them the opportunity to have the data in their hand, but also to understand what is going to happen. Because I always said when there's a spill, 99% of the chance that the spill will arrive on shoreline a day. You know, it depends where is the spill, the source, and when it's happening. But I also see that the shoreline is the first, like, it's happening like in the first hours, sometimes first days of the spill, but it stay like sometimes for months, for years, for many, many years. Like if we take Exxon Valdez, we can still see oil on shoreline after like since 1989. And we are still studying those shoreline. So it's very interesting that Chunjiang like aligned his research on that, and very happy. But it's a bit my background, so I'm very happy to be here today.
Okay, thank you so much. And I can, how about to introduce yourself and for your work? Thank you.
Thank you, Chunjiang. Well, like Sonia, I've been involved in oil spill research for a long time. In fact, I think I've been in oil spill research for more than 45 years, and it's an honor to be here at Concordia University because I have a long history of working with Concordia and its graduate students. In fact, I think I took a graduate student to sea from Concordia to work with me on offshore oil and gas off the coast of Newfoundland back in the 1980s, and that student now earns more money than I do, and I have to ask her for references, so it's rather embarrassing. Anyway, I've spent my whole research career pretty well working for federal agencies. I worked for Fisheries and Oceans Canada as a research scientist for a number of years, leading the Center for Offshore Oil, Gas, and Energy Research, looking at offshore oil and gas and potential impacts, which also included oil spills. And of course, Fisheries and Oceans Canada's mandate is to safeguard the waters and the Canadian environment, and also the aquatic ecosystem, and to protect it from negative impacts, because Fisheries and Oceans is also associated with the Canadian Coast Guard as the same agency. And after that, I also worked with CSIRO in Australia, which is the Commonwealth Scientific Industrial Research Organization, which is the federal agency in Australia, the research organization, to help them develop their national plan for oil spill response. And then I returned to Canada, and I've been helping Natural Resources Canada, which has a mandate to sustainably manage Canada's natural resources while protecting the environment and respecting the Indigenous peoples of Canada. And as part of that, in Natural Resources Canada is also to prevent environmental emergencies as well as reducing their impact, which includes oil spills. And of course, looking at our natural resources we see now with the political system that we have and everything that's going on, we want to make sure that we support economic prosperity within Canada. As part of my career in the federal government, I led a report by the Royal Society of Canada on oil spills within Canada and what research was needed. And as a result of that, I ended up leading, as at the time with Fisheries and Oceans, its National Senior Science Advisor for Oil Spill Research, Response, and Preparedness, a program called the Multi-Partner Research Initiative for Oil Spill Research under Canada's Oceans Protection Plan. And this is a program where our Prime Minister said, look, Canada has a world-class oil spill response regime, and how do we support that? Well, what we want to do is to recognize the importance of providing science and technology for oil spill response. When oil spills occur, we have to answer questions. We have to make heavy decisions, and those decisions are based on good science. So under the MPRI program, what we did was to put together a program where we said, what do we want to do? And this is where Concordia became involved. One of the things we want to do is to increase oil spill response knowledge, to understand what goes on when oil spills occur. And then, of course, we're looking at innovation. And of course, academics lead innovation. And then, of course, technology development. As I said, one of the things we're looking at is economic prosperity. We want to develop products that we can commercialize and be world leaders. The second thing is oil spills aren't a national issue. Oil spills are an international issue. So why do we try and do everything by ourselves? So one of the things we want to do is build collaborations. As you saw in Chunjiang's presentation, Concordia is collaborating with organizations in academia and industry and government, not only with Canada, but internationally. So we want to work together and develop guidelines. and not have a situation where we have a conflict of interest or duplication of effort in what we're doing. We also want to have Indigenous support for programs because it's very important to take into account traditional knowledge and what we do in the future. But all of this is really, as I mentioned, to support decision-making, because when a spill occurs, you have to make decisions, and how do you get people to work together? So under the MPRI program, the idea is, how can we get academia, industry, and government, and not only Canadian government, but international governments, to work together? And then, of course, being an academic system, one of the things that I tell people that I try to do now is to make opportunities for other people. And really, that comes down to, how do we bring forward the next generation of young scientists in the field? So I'm very happy to be here as part of this program to highlight those important things that we're doing. So under the MPRI program, there are a number of things that we do. And some of the things that we do, there are 6 things that we focused on. One is a better understanding of the fate, behavior, and transport of oil when it's spilled in the environment. Where is it going? What does it do? We want to develop new alternative response measures. We want to develop new tools that we have in our toolbox to respond to oil spills. And this includes things like spill treating agents, the surface washing agents that Chunjiang is developing to clean beaches and other environments. We want to include our ability to detect oil and to monitor where it goes in the environment, because we can only fight oil spills if we know what's there and where it's going. And then, of course, it's most important to everybody, are biological effects. No matter what we do, we want to make sure we understand what the biological effects are of the oil spill itself, plus the technologies we're going to apply to try and clean up oil spills. And then physical recovery. Is there a way that we can actually recover the oil and put it back in a bottle? So we actually remove it from the environment. And then last of all, one of the most important things is, how do we improve our planning and decision-making in the event of oil spills? So I think Concordia has been involved in many of these objectives that we have under the MPI program. I'm happy to be here today. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you so much for being here. And here, so as we can see here, so in Canada also has a very long and a diverse shoreline, right? And here for our Concordia team, right, so we are working and then to study, so what will be the different oil spill transfer and the fit, and also for the process, and also what methods so we can apply for the different conditions. And here, so since we have such a diverse shoreline environment, and according to your own experience and work, so what could be the major challenge and for the current shoreline protection in Canada regarding the major challenge? Yes, Sonia, do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I think the major challenge that we will have in the future, and I think it's still right for any country today, is like the emerging fuel that we have, that it's coming. We have a different type of oil that is like we have now in the cargo ship that like are brand new, that we don't know the fate and behavior of those oil on shoreline. We have all the chemicals that are coming, like a ship that have ammonia now in their for propulsion, and many other fuel like methanol, etc. So it's for tomorrow. I think what is going to be the challenge is to have all the study that we have done, all the other type of oil. We have to like figure it out what we're going to do with this emerging fuel today. I think is one of the challenges. And to develop the new technology. I think it's today it's true. It's like we have this technology that was developed in the past, but I think we need to look towards the future with that, and MPRI are good with that, like to promote like new research for shoreline and new cleanup strategy for. So it's one of the big challenge for now, as you know, because.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I think as Chunjiang, in his slides showed the beaches in Canada, yes, it's important to protect those high amenity beaches where we go and enjoy our summers and things like that. But shorelines are more important than just places to take our vacations. Shorelines are habitats that are very important in the ecosystem. You know, if you look at the coastline along the St. Lawrence River, I worked on oil spills and wetlands along the St. Lawrence. Those are the major feeding areas for Canada geese, for instance. Or if you look at the Arctic or on the West Coast, you know, people on the West Coast, when they have an oil spill on the shoreline, they're worried, the indigenous peoples especially, are worried about shellfish that live in those shorelines. And off the shoreline is our nearshore environment. And those are the areas in the ocean where we have our highest productivity. So if you have oil that comes on the shoreline and we remove it in the shoreline, goes back into the water, we're very concerned about the whole biological impacts on the ecosystem. The risk of oil spills in shorelines in Canada is increasing. You know, if you look at the Canadian Arctic, because of climate change, the open water season is open much longer now, so we're looking at more ships going across the Arctic. We have industries growing up in the Arctic with like mining. We're looking at ecotourism, where in the future we could have large ships going through with a lot of passengers. All of these areas increase the risk of oil spills on shorelines, and we have to be prepared to clean up shorelines. The challenge is shorelines are very dynamic environments. At the same time, if we have oil spills on the shoreline, they can persist for a long time, and it's very expensive to clean. So we have to improve our methodologies to protect our shorelines and to remediate shorelines.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, thanks. And in addition, so our team has been already working on it to develop some new methods to deal with the oil spill. For the new response methods here, right? And in Canada, so currently, so there is also a certain framework, so which can be used to deal with the oil spill, right? And here, so I want to know, how about your comments regarding the current framework for the oil spill response used in Canada? And so, is there anything so we can further improve for such a framework in the future? Yes, Sonia, did you want to say something? Yeah.
I think right now the framework in Canada is well established, I would say. We have a good framework with Coast Guard, with like all the jurisdiction. I think is great. I think which improvement we have to do, it's like to learn to a new generation how it's working. Because we are lucky in Canada, we don't have big spill. You know, it's long time that we have this big spill. So when you have less big spill, it's less interesting to work in spill, of course, you know, and they are less interesting because we don't have spill. It's great for the environment, but also like it's like difficult to like hire people in the government and to have like to keep the interest to work in the oil spill, to be on duty, to keep the research and to keep the research here in Canada. It's difficult. The people are leaving, it's very difficult to find people. And I found that like in the framework, we never think about the new generation. Another thing that I think that we need to look for is like all the new technology. All the new technology, I'm thinking about the social network, the web, the everything that is existing, the AI, you know, all this new technology that is existing now, it's not really in the oil spill framework at the moment. There is still like paperwork, a lot of paperwork, which is still, but I saw some spill that we have like we have some technology, like we have some form that we can fill on our phone or like tablets now, and everybody's like panicking with that, you know what I mean? So we need in Canada to like move with the new technology and encourage the new generation to show us, and I include myself in that, how to use this new technology and how to be efficient, more efficient, in fact, during a spill. I think it's feasible today. And we are not there yet, I don't think so. Okay. But I think it's something that can be improved. And I think the new generation can bring that. We just have like to find like a good way. The government is a slow machine, it's very difficult, but when we have the right people, it can go fast. And yeah, like Ken, you know, like Ken. He liked the new technology though.
Please.
Thank you. Well, as I mentioned, you know, we have a world-class framework in Canada for oil spill response. But the framework is only as good as the things that we have behind it. And as I mentioned, the most important thing about the framework is how do we make decisions within this framework? And that's really based on scientific knowledge. So we need to have strong science to support our decision-making in the framework. The other thing in the framework is, as Sonia mentioned, I'm always looking at new tools and things like that. There are a number of tools that we want to develop so that we can use in the future that may be more efficient or less damaging to the environment when we apply to them to clean up oil spills. So within that framework, we want to expand the window of opportunity. What tools can we use that we can't use now? And that's why the research that we're doing here at this university is so important. We want to put new tools out there and then develop, as Chunjiang mentioned, guidelines for their use. So when a spill occurs, and based on the scientific knowledge that we have, and working with teams of people from various agencies, including academia and government and industry, make those decisions on what we're going to apply and how we're going to apply it to optimize recovery from an oil spill and to minimize environmental damage. So there are a lot of things there in terms of framework that we can look at. The other thing is to understand, what happens when we don't clean up oil spills in our framework also. It's very important. The environment's more resilient than we think. And so natural recovery does occur, but it takes a long time. So what can we do to help nature speed up natural cleanup without a lot of hazardous chemicals and things like that? And there we're looking at these green technologies we're trying to develop. So how can we also help nature along in this framework in the future?
Yes, sure.
And I think I have an idea of something that we're missing is recovery. And I think just like mention it, it's like after a spill, we need to pass in a phase of recovery. And when we are in a recovery phase, it can be long, to keep how clean is clean, where you want to bring back the environment what it was before. It can take 10, 20 years, We have no framework in Canada for that. We are working on one at the moment to have a jurisdiction. If we take the USA at the moment, they have a jurisdiction for a natural resource damage assessment, mean recovery. So we are working on one at the moment. It's going slow, but at least there is something now for recovery to have a jurisdiction to be sure that we're gonna pass at this phase recovery, which is not always the case because there's no jurisdiction on that. So now we want to have a framework for that. So, which is encouraging at the moment for recovery because you are working on this part, natural attenuation and all the other biodegradation, bioremediation. So I hope that it's gonna come soon, the framework for that in Canada.
Great. Okay, thank you so much. And here, so it's good to know Canada right now so have some kind of good framework to deal with the oil spill response. And here is at the same time for policy and regulation. So they are also very important, right? And here, for example, so at Concordia, so we are good at developing some new methods. But once we have some new methods, we also need to get the approval and from the government here, right? And here, so I know if Sonia, for environment Canada and climate change, so you are also doing the work for the shaping, for the new policies, right? And you also need to consider many things for the environmental, for the social part, for the economic part, right? And here, so my question here is, so when ECCC is developing some new policies, how would you consider all kind of factors and to balance them?
It's a good question. Play with politics is very difficult, as you know. In Canada, we have what we call the Fisheries Act. It's a policy that exists in Canada since super long time, 1920, I think so, something like that. And in Fisheries Act, the definition of one of the article is we cannot put any deleterious substances in a water that can have fish in it. So it means that the ditch is going in the small creek, and the small creek is going in the river, and the river, it's a possibility that this water will have an impact on a fish. So it means that you cannot put anything in your ditch in front of your property. You know what I mean? It's it's going very far. And the definition of the fish is very large as well. It's not like only fish. So when we came to have a new framework, a new jurisdiction policy about that, it takes time. And all the new projects that we are like having in Canada that to help for spill, sometimes it's another project that we have to have the toxicity of this project and etc. So we need to have our science, like the laboratory that we have in River Road. We need to have this laboratory working on new development, on new technology, be sure that it's going in an approval somewhere, that we have a list of technology that we can use, or like clean up a project that we can have to help the spill on the water, you know, on shoreline, to have the degradation, etc. But we don't want to have a project that will be like worse than the oil spill as well. You know, sometimes it can happen. I remember like to have like a technology, someone arrived from Brazil and he was like having a super idea with a project, but it was more toxic than the oil, you know? So of course there is no oil after, but I have like another problem. So we need to be sure that what we are doing are not like more, so it takes times to do that. Okay. But we are working on project, and when the people knock our door, we are happy to try to do some tests in the lab with the oil and to do everything. So yeah, it's a long process, but it's there. Okay, the process exists, it's there.
Okay, great. And here, yeah, Ken, so I know you have been working with many different international organizations, right? And so yeah, from that part, so what Canada can learn and from the other international organizations?
Yes, so in my career, I've had the opportunity to work on oil spills around the world. So I've worked on oil spills everywhere from Russia to China to France, recently in the Mauritius a few years ago. And one of the things is, you know, there is an international, what I would call best practice for oil spill response. And that's something called net environmental benefit analysis. So there is a framework to say, how are we going to choose what we're going to use in oil spill response? And there's no technology anywhere in the world that we can use for cleanup oil spills. It's 100% effective. So you have to make compromises. You know, as Sonia said, you don't want to put something deleterious in the environment, but do you reduce the impact of all that oil that's in the environment? So you're looking at that net benefit. So yes, we have to understand those net environmental benefit analysis. The decisions made for that analysis is based on science. So when you're developing technologies, right now, some of these alternative response technologies that, you know, a number of people are developing, we can't use in Canada, but they can be used in other countries. So for instance, as Sonia mentioned, under the Fisheries Act, there's zero tolerance for deleterious substances into the marine environment. So if we look at something like chemical additives, in many cases, if you develop something new, you still can't use it because of the regulation of the Fisheries Act. The fact of the matter is, when you do your research, you have to look at the bigger picture and understand what are the side effects of this technology? What are the guidelines we're going to use for this technology? And from those scientific papers that you produce, when we're looking at changing regulations, so we have a larger number of tools that we can use, we can make those changes in regulations based on science, and that's very important. And that's an important thing that academics do in their research, is that basic research. So we have the scientific evidence to say, well, perhaps, yes, we're adding something to the environment, but perhaps it can be acceptable because we think the damage is way less than what the oil is that was spilled. And we have to take that into account in the development of policies and regulations. So there is a general international guideline. How do we improve our guidelines for oil spills in Canada? I think we're moving in the right direction by fostering this type of research, developing new tools, but also understanding when and how we use them and what could the impacts be to make sure that we minimize the damage and speed up recovery as fast as we can when a spill occurs.
Maybe we'll have something.
Okay, yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ken. And what I wanted to add, I forgot my what I wanted to add. It's happening sometime. I wanted to. You were talking about that. Well, I lost my idea. I will come back, I guess.
That's fine. And here, for both of you, you mentioned, so there could be some new tools for the future, right? You mentioned, in the future, so there could be the use for the new tools, such as for the new biotechnology, even for the AI, right? And then here for Concordia, so we are good for both of the biotech, for the bio one, or even for the AI. And then here, so according to your expectation, so in the future, so what could be the potential new frontiers in the area for the shoreline protection?
Yeah, it's a good question. The marine shoreline are very well studied, I would say. The Arctic is another game part, but I would say BC, St. Lawrence River, Atlantic. The shoreline are well known and studied. When we think about freshwater, all the river and inland, it can have a big spill as well. We have pipeline, we have train that are full of type of oil in it, rolling at 120% most of the time. And in the Arctic with the new climate change, we have more facilities. So the future is to look through those shoreline, the freshwater inside, how we can augment the knowledge on the shoreline in freshwater, because it's another world, and in the Arctic as well. It's another world with the climate change. The shorelines are changing. I'm speaking with a lot of Inuit over there, and they don't see the same that what it was 2 years ago even. So it's changing so fast that even though that we are going to map or study the shoreline there, I think the dynamic is so huge that in 2 years we have to go. It's not like Newfoundland, the big rock doesn't change. I went 15 years ago, it's the same beach, that's the same place. In the Arctic, it's changing a lot and fast. So if we have a spill, we will have to be very efficient. And the AI remote sensing can help us to have the knowledge on shoreline. I mean, we cannot if we want to have knowledge on shoreline where it's very difficult logistically to go, we need to use all this new technology. And it's not there yet. It's coming, but it's not there yet. There's a big, huge, gap there that we need to, I think, study on that and be sure that if we have a spill, we can have image very fast of shoreline, to have the sensitivity, to have how it's going to be impacted. And even when the oil is on shoreline, because it's those shoreline we have. So you calculated all the coast to coast, but you didn't calculate it inside all the fresh water. So
Okay, thank you.
Well, one of the things I want to talk about, I think, is the fact that, right now, science is moving very quickly. There's nanotechnologies. We're developing new methodologies in laboratories. We have analytical systems that can look at things that we never could understand before. For instance, if you look at a crude oil, there's thousands of compounds in a crude oil. And now we're just beginning to understand things like oil emulsification, how oil mixes with water and what's going on. When you look at transport of oil in the water column, a lot of it is a formation of very fine oil droplets. And how are they transported differently than the bulk oil on the oil slick on the surface? And then, of course, your work, where you're looking at oil particle interactions and understanding all those other interactions that we never looked at before. So one of the things is there's new technologies, but how do we get people not to work in silos? Because in the past, a chemist would work on chemistry, a biologist would work on toxicity, engineers would work on solutions, but we never got everybody to work together. And I think now we're getting to a point where, yes, we want to develop technologies that are more efficient, have less environmental damage or secondary impacts, but working together to understand the process and how to make decisions and how to use them. And the other thing that's important is we can develop the best technologies. The question is, how do you get them into the hands of people who are going to buy them and use them? And I think that's the important thing right now that we're looking at is, how do we not only develop new technologies and new ideas, how do we get them into the hands of the end users and get them to actually spend the money to purchase them and not do the same thing every day that they've been doing the last 20 years. And by fostering interaction between academics, government, industry. I think we want to get on that path now, so we change our dynamic and how we make decisions and work together. So in the past, when oil spills occurred, you know, people all went their different ways. Everybody was very protectionist and in both their responsibility. Now when a spill occurs, the oil industry realizes they can't win saying there's no damage. They want to do the best thing they can to work together and clean up an oil spill. And this is the time to move forward into the future with this new dynamic.
Okay, great. And here, so before the Q&A session, so the last topic here I have here is regarding, as you can see here. So we also have many young scientists and young researchers here, right? So do you have any words and advice for them to let them know how they can do some work in the future? Yes, Sonia.
I always have students with me all the time. I like to work with students because you have plenty of ideas and I liked it. Keep me young, let's say. I would say like knock the door directly to the people that work in the emergencies, you know, and come to see us, and our door are always open. If you are interested to work in the emergencies, it's knock the door, see what is available for you. Sometimes you can have like a partnership with us, for sure. Sometimes we can have some studies that will need like to be work with a university, so we can have like project with the university, but you pay by us. You know, there is like many like small things that maybe we can try to avoid, to try to come in by the government, by the competition, and try to like come in, and you know, there is like other manner like to come like by the side with us and see what is available. And if you are interested, we always look for expertise, you know, that it's specific in the emergencies for sure. It's and believe it or not, but we have difficulty to find people, so we'll be very like happy if there is like people that are looking for like work with us at the laboratory and etc. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Ken, do you want to say about something?
So my advice to students is, and this is something that I looked at in my career, when I look back at my career, is what you want to do is have fun. You know, when you're looking into the future, you're not looking for a job. What you want to do is have a career. And I tell people in my career, I had a job which I really consider to be a hobby. Where else can you go to work every day and play? Because, you know, when a spill occurs, I run experiments, I get money, and I conduct my research. So one of the nice things about students is, and I've always loved interaction with students, is because they ask this question. I tell them to do something, and students say, why? And sometimes they catch me, you know, like, why am I doing this? And so the thing is, you want to think out of the box. You're the future in this field. And so for students, you know, make the opportunity to go out and have fun. Not only that, don't just focus on your work, but focus on the knowledge that you have and how you can apply it to other people to expand your horizons. And that's really what it is. I mean, what you want to do is, you're a student now and you're learning. To have fun, you want to learn the rest of your life. And in my career, I started as an undergraduate in marine biology and in Dalhousie University. And then I thought, well, I'll go study limnology, study lakes, and became an algal physiologist at the University of Toronto in Department of Botany. And then I realized that, well, gee, you know, I think I want to get into something more practical. So then I thought I'll go into toxicology and study algae and toxicity, which was related to the Athabasca tar sand, some atmospheric deposition from that. And then I realized that when I was doing toxicity in biology that I didn't understand chemistry, so I decided to do a postdoc in chemical oceanography. So my whole career was changing fields and meeting people and having fun. And I'm not an engineer, but last year I was inducted as a fellow of the Canadian Academy of Engineers. And so the whole career, my life career, was really just having fun and enjoying myself. And that's my advice to students. You know, you have a life to learn and to apply things, work with interesting people, make as many contacts as you can, and that's what life is all about.
Okay, that's great. Okay, thank you so much for your advice. And here, so maybe it's in the end, so we have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions. So are there any questions from the audience? From anyone?
If there are any questions online, you can type them into the chat.
Okay.
We can read them out. And down here in the space, just raise your hand. We can bring a microphone over. Have any questions? Great. Wee Fang's got a question.
I just have one question for both Sonia and Dr. Lee. And I know you have many first-hand experience in oil spill incidents in coastal areas. But for our young researchers, especially for PhD students in universities, we mainly focus on the small-scale and more controlled lab test. So my question is, what advice do you have for us to ensure these lab-scale findings can be translated effectively into the real oil spill response scenarios? Yes.
Okay.
Oh my God. Come in my suitcase. Come in my suitcase. No, I would say like it's a good question. I need to think a bit, but I think everything is important, even the small thing, you know, because if the small thing that you're doing in the lab is good, like I think it can be applied on a big spill as well. I will tell you an experience, there was a spill just here, like in the St. Lawrence River, and we have a riprap, you know, with like bunkers, anyway, a heavy fuel oil stick on it, and it was. We didn't know that if it was like we had a spill treating agent, like we wanted to use on the rocks, so we went in our truck and we used the spill treating agent on the small rock that was contaminated, bit like that, and we tried it in the truck and we said, okay, it's worked, so we're gonna apply it now. So, you know, it was a small experience in my truck. So, you know, everything that is small still like can bring to a spill. So trust what you're doing and share your experience, like with the people that went on a big spill, like Ken or like me or like other people that you meet. And I'm sure like and I'm super happy, like recently, like I have like a paper with Rizvan with you, like it was super interesting to like see that. So if you have any paper, like share with us, you know, like I have a big team and you have Chunjiang and myself, so we will be more than happy to have a look on like papers or like just to have a conversation with people that like manage spills every day. I think if you want to have that, it's possible via Chunjiang for sure. I don't know, do you have an answer?
Yeah, so my answer is coffee breaks. So when you're a student and you're doing your thesis, as I mentioned, you're so focused, most students, on what they're doing and trying to understand something very specific. But you lose sight of the big picture where your knowledge could be important in the bigger picture to somebody else, and they may need your experience. So to give you an idea, you know, there are 2 types of jobs. I tell people when students are looking for jobs, I said, you can go for a job where you're looking for money, or you can go for a job where you're gaining experience. Both of them are equally important. It's great if you can get both. But take the opportunity and gain as much experience as you can, because it'll open your eyes and open your doors. When you talk to people, tell them what your expertise is. Yes, your expertise may be in the lab, but you may have a scientist like myself who thinks, that's just the type of expertise I need in my group. Even though you may not think about it, he may think that this is useful. So when you go to conferences, talk to people, make connections. The student that I had at Concordia was a student in modeling. This is years ago. And she's now a senior scientist at ExxonMobil, living in Houston in a mansion. And she was a modeler and I was an oceanographer, and I needed an extra pair of hands to help me on a cruise and off the east coast of Newfoundland. And I thought, as a modeler, you're working with all this data. You don't have an understanding where this data comes from, how hard it is to collect. So I actually took this student on a cruise on a ship for 2 weeks. And I had her do routine work on the deck of a ship, just collecting samples and putting it in bottles and everything else. But she made connections, and she impressed me, and that changed her whole career. And so that's what you want to do. You want to make the connections. Like I said, understand what you do. Make sure people understand what expertise you have. It can lead you to other things, and it'll open doors. So that's my advice to you.
We will never say no to a student or a PhD like to speak with. Never, never, never. So.
We have a question up front.
I have a follow-up question to that. I'm just wondering if you were, I mean, you've both worked with a lot of students. I'm just wondering what kind of skills you see. I mean, obviously they need to have the science. But in terms of their training, what other skills do you like to see that we could actually build into their program?
There's no program in emergency, you know, like it doesn't exist nowhere. So the team on a spill needs to be multidisciplinary. So chemical engineer, biologist. Me, I'm a coastal geomorphologist. I'm working with chemists, physician. In my team, I have also some people that are really good in programming. We have no choice today. I think we need to have this type of people. Modeling, yeah, we have like engineer. So it's like everything. If you are interested in the spill, all this science can be applied on a spill after. I think so, yeah. So by training, it's difficult, eh? It's like really like the subject or the line that you will take, maybe, like will guide you like towards the emergency a bit more, or like a science, I would say, / emergency. Yeah.
I think one of the things, when you're working in emergency response like we do, because, you're going out in the field in difficult environment where, an accident has occurred, people don't want you there, people don't want to hear about it. Everybody feels we know nothing when really we know a lot, but, so a couple of things that are important to me in terms of spill response and the type of people we want to interact with. One, I think one of the most important things is interpersonal skills. You've got to be able to communicate because people will come up and pose questions to you and ask you all kinds of questions. And you've got to be able to work as a team because, you're working in a small team in emergencies, you're working in situations that's changing consistently. And one of the other things is you want somebody who's enthusiastic and willing to learn. So that's what I look for. I look for enthusiasm and learning because, you learn a lot on the job because things are changing, things are breaking down. You have to adapt very quickly, and those are the skills I look at. I have a story I tell people about hiring a young student, and I had a competition one time for young students, and I was interviewing students, and after the interview, one student actually interviewed said, "Look, I want to get it straight with you. I don't wash glassware. I think that's beneath me." And I thought, well, you're definitely not going to make my list, because you have to do everything, whether you like it or not. But I had another student that I interviewed. At the end of the interview, I said, "What are you doing this weekend?" And, just out of curiosity, the interview was over, like, relax, what are you doing this weekend? Thinking that he'd say, "I'm going to go on vacation or take the weekend off." And his response was, "Whatever you want me to do." Well, I hired him on the spot because of that enthusiasm and the willingness to work. So that's what you want to come across. You want to come across as, yes, I want to be part of your team and I'm willing to learn.
And I would say the vulgarization as well, eh? To be good to vulgarize the science. To be good to vulgarize what you are doing. I think it's difficult, but it's a key, because we are speaking with the public, and the public, like we are representing the public. So you need to be explain your science at a young children of 5 years old. Think about that. It's all you have to say your science. So if you are able to do that, you will be good in the emergency. You need to have the skill because sometimes you have no choice. You're speaking with people on the shore and sometimes they, to express everything. So vulgarization is very good as well.
Okay, that's great.
Any other questions here? Online? No? Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, great. And okay, so in the end, so many thanks again for our guest speakers and for the audience and for everyone, for Monica, and also special thanks for our also going for the first space. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chunjiang An. Thank you all for joining us here, participating in this panel, but also for joining us here in the audience and for your questions. We're going to close up the Zoom and the live stream now to let you know this conversation remains available on our YouTube channel, as does our tour of the An Lab with Hui Fang earlier this week. So you should definitely check that out as well. And have a great afternoon. Okay.